It is Friday, February 27th, 2026. And if you are an Aston Martin fan right now, I need you to just sit down.
Hey, grab a stress ball.
Grab a stress ball, maybe just look away entirely. Because what is happening right now in the Formula One paddock, specifically inside that Silverstone garage well, it's not just a technical stumble. We're looking at a full-blown five-alarm crisis.
It really is a seismic event. I mean, we are exactly 7 days out from the lights going out in Australia.
7 days.
7 days. And the AMR26, the car that was supposed to be the super team's absolute masterpiece, is currently vibrating so violently that Honda has declared it unsafe to even turn the engine on.
Welcome to DRS Zone. This is your deep dive into the raw telemetry of the sport. We are not here for the PR fluff. We don't care about the sanitized press releases or the team principal platitudes. We're here to figure out why a car designed by Adrian Newey and powered by Honda is currently sitting in pieces. I'm your host, and with me to break down the actual physics of this disaster is our strategic analyst.
Good to be here. And look, disaster is not hyperbole today. The data coming out of the BAHRAIN preseason test suggests a catastrophic failure, a failure in the actual integration between the chassis and the power unit. We're looking at a team that is scrambling.
Just panicking. And before we get into the weeds, a quick note for you listening. This segment is part of our news coverage of recent F1 events. Breaking reports are flying everywhere. So let's set the scene for the listener who maybe didn't catch the granular details of the test. Because the headline numbers, they do not tell the full story here.
Oh, they hide the reality.
Right. Fernando Alonso manages 68 laps on day one, which, on paper looks okay.
It's decent. Not great for a new regulation era, but decent.
Exactly. But then he gets pulled off the track, the screens go up, the garage doors come down.
And that is never a good sign in testing.
Ever. Then Lance Stroll jumps in the car the next day and manages, 6 laps?
6 very tentative laps. He wasn't pushing. And then just total silence.
Silence. Now, in F1 testing, teams hide things all the time, right? They hide their pace.
They hide fuel loads, secret aero parts.
Yeah, but they do not usually hide the car because they are afraid it's going to electrocute the mechanics.
Exactly. That is the key distinction here. This isn't sandbagging. We have the official technical report from Ikuo Takeshi, the head of racing development at HRC.
Honda Racing Corporation.
Right. And he didn't blame a faulty sensor. He didn't blame a loose bolt. He explicitly stated, and I quote, "Abnormal vibrations damaged the battery system."
Okay, stop right there. Abnormal vibrations damage the battery system. To the average driver, a vibration sounds like a wheel balance issue. My washing machine vibrates. Why is a vibration in an F1 battery considered a massive safety risk rather than just a reliability headache?
It comes down to the fundamental architecture of a 2026 F1 car. These cars run massive high-voltage systems, way more potent than your standard road EV.
Right.
In your road car, the 12-volt battery is grounded to the chassis. It actually uses the metal of the car to complete the circuit.
Which is fine for a radio or headlights.
Sure, but in F1, for safety, the high-voltage system, the energy store, must be completely floating.
Floating meaning electrically isolated? It physically cannot touch the conductive parts of the car?
Precisely. There has to be a perfect insulation gap between the actual battery cells and the carbon fiber or metal of the chassis.
Because if that gap is bridged,
you have a high-voltage short circuit discharging directly into the car's bodywork. The entire chassis becomes live.
Which is just a terrifying thought for the driver sitting inside it. You're basically strapping yourself into a high-speed electric chair if that isolation fails.
It is lethal, period. And what happened in BAHRAIN was a physics problem called harmonic resonance.
Okay, break that down for us.
Basically, the vibration of the internal combustion engine and the natural vibration frequency of the chassis, they interacted. And instead of canceling each other out, they amplified the shaking.
Like a tuning fork.
Exactly like a tuning fork. It wasn't just a rattle. It was violent enough to physically crush the isolation barriers inside the battery pack.
So the car was literally shaking itself into a short circuit. That is wild.
It is. The battery cells or the bus bars vibrated so hard they touched the housing, and the moment the telemetry sees that isolation drop, the safety systems instantly kill the car to prevent a thermal runaway.
A fire?
A fire or a fatal electric shock. That's why they parked it. It wasn't a, hey, we need to fix this to go a tenth faster moment. It was a do not kill the driver moment.
Okay, so that's the what. The battery is getting pulverized, but I want to get to the why. This is Aston Martin we are talking about. They have Lawrence Stroll's unlimited checkbook. They have the new campus at Silverstone, which, it looks like a Bond villain's lair.
It's state of the art.
It is. And they have Honda. How do they miss something as fundamental as, oh, by the way, the engine shakes the car too much?
This is where we have to look at the infrastructure, and honestly, it is a bit shocking. It turns out Aston Martin has a massive hole in their toolkit compared to a team like, say, Williams.
Wait, Williams, the team that spent a decade fighting just to pay the electric bill. You're telling me Williams has better testing tech than Aston Martin right now?
In this specific area, yes. Williams has a virtual test track, or a VTT. Aston Martin does not.
Okay, for the uninitiated, and for me, explain what a VTT actually is.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like a video game, but I assume it involves a lot more heavy metal.
Much heavier. A simulator, the one the drivers use, is a screen and a steering wheel. A VTT is a massive physical rig. You take the actual combustion engine, the actual gearbox, the actual drive shaft,
The real parts.
the real physical parts, and you bolt them to a skeleton of the chassis. Then you run the engine through a simulated lap of a track, say Monza, while huge hydraulic actuators physically twist and shake the chassis to mimic the G-forces, the curbs, the bumps.
Wow. So you are testing the physical marriage of the parts before the car ever sees a real track.
Exactly. You can literally see how the engine vibrations travel through the spine of the car. You catch these harmonic resonance issues months in advance.
And Aston Martin doesn't have this.
They do not have this rig at Silverstone yet. So think about their process. Honda tested the engine in Japan on a dyno.
Where it sits on a massive concrete block.
Right, perfectly stable, and it ran flawlessly. Aston built the chassis in the UK. It looked perfect in the CAD drawings.
But when they met in Bahrain,
It was like online dating. The profile pictures looked great. Everything seemed totally compatible on paper. But when they moved in together, they realized they were completely incompatible.
they couldn't stand each other.
Exactly. Without the VTT, Aston Martin flew blind. They couldn't simulate the harmonic resonance of the entire package until they were physically on the track in the desert, and by then, it was way too late.
I mean, that is a staggering oversight for a team with championship ambitions. You just cannot simulate physics on a spreadsheet. But there is another layer to this, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just about the lack of testing tools, it's about the design philosophy itself. Because we cannot talk about Honda and packaging issues without bringing up the ghosts of 2015.
The Maconda era. I see exactly where you're going with this. It does feel eerily similar.
For those who weren't watching back then, McLaren tried to package the Honda engine into a tiny space. They called it the size zero concept.
Right, and it was an absolute disaster. The engine overheated. It failed constantly.
Exactly. And now we are hearing reports that Adrian Newey, the aerodynamic genius who just joined Aston, demanded something very similar for this AMR 26.
That's right. Satoshi Tsunoda, the Honda F1 project leader, he actually let slip that Newey requested a quote-unquote super compact engine design at the very last minute.
Now, to be fair to Newey, that is his job, right? He wants the bodywork to be as tight as possible to manage the airflow. If the engine is a big brick, it blocks the air.
Yeah, he wants it to be a shoebox so he can create massive downforce at the rear.
But it's the eternal war in F1, isn't it? Aerodynamics versus reliability.
Always. Newey wants the back of the car to be size zero, so the air flows cleanly to the diffuser. That generates pure speed. But the engineers at Honda, they need space. They need room for cooling pipes, for heat dissipation, and crucially here, for vibration dampening.
Because dampening needs physical space. You need rubber mounts. You need clearance so things can wiggle without hitting each other. If everything is touching skin to skin, the vibration transfers instantly.
Exactly. If you package everything tight against the engine block, there is nowhere for that kinetic energy to go. The vibrations travel straight out of the engine and directly into the components bolted next to it.
Which in this case is the battery.
Right. So Newey squeezed the Honda engineers. Honda tried to comply because, let's face it, you don't say no to Adrian Newey.
Nobody says no to Newey.
And the result is a battery that gets literally pulverized by its own engine.
It seems that way. It's a clash of titans. Newey's aero versus Honda's reliability. And right now the car is the loser. They are crushing their own internal organs.
And they have 1 week to fix it before Australia.
Which is insane. But here is where it gets really interesting and honestly even scarier for the sport as a whole. Even if Aston fixes the vibration, say they magically fix it tomorrow, there is a much bigger rule change looming for the entire grid in 2026.
Yes.
This isn't just an Aston problem. This is a how do we even race these cars problem. The 50-kilometer-per-hour rule.
This is the rule that is keeping every single powertrain engineer awake at night. It is the single biggest change to how a Formula One car launches off the line in decades.
Break it down for us. What does the new regulation actually say?
Under the new 2026 technical regulations, the cars are not allowed to use any electric assistance from the hybrid system until the car reaches 50 kilometers per hour.
So from 0 to 50, essentially the launch off the line, the most critical, chaotic moment of the race, it is purely internal combustion.
Pure combustion, nothing else. And here's the real kicker. Remember, the MGUH is gone.
Okay, we need to clarify that acronym for the listener. The MGUH was the motor generator unit heat.
Right. In the old hybrid era, the MGUH sat right on the turbocharger. It would spin the turbo up electrically to completely eliminate turbo lag. It meant that even at super low revs, you had instant boost.
Instant power.
Mm-hmm.
But that part has been banned for 2026 to cut costs, right?
Banned entirely to simplify the engine.
So let me get this straight. You have a massive turbocharger.
Yeah.
You have no electric motor to spin it up, and you have absolutely no electric power going to the wheels until you hit 50 kph.
You are essentially trying to launch a spaceship using a lawnmower engine for the first 3 seconds.
That's absurd.
You have massive turbo lag. The engine is gasping for air, trying to build boost, but it has zero help. It is physically painful for the engineers to watch the telemetry on these launches.
This sounds like a recipe for a massive disaster on the starting grid. I mean, picture the start of the Australian Grand Prix next week. 20 cars.
The drivers are already calling themselves sitting ducks. The risk of stalling is huge. If you drop the clutch and the turbo hasn't spooled up properly, the engine just dies. It doesn't have the raw torque to move the weight of the car.
Or imagine the speed differential. Driver A gets the turbo spun up perfectly and launches like a rocket. Driver B bogs down.
Exactly. 10 meters.
That's the safety nightmare. You could have missiles closing in on practically stationary objects.
And this connects right back to Honda's desperation. They are realizing that launching these 2026 cars requires a completely different type of throttle and torque mapping. They need to magically find torque where none exists naturally.
And I read that Honda's doing something entirely unprecedented to solve this. They aren't looking at Ferrari, they aren't looking at Mercedes, they are looking at bikes.
Yes. This is fascinating. Honda has officially aligned their F1 division with their MotoGP division.
Which makes perfect sense when you actually think about it. A MotoGP bike has insanely high revs, massive torque, and a tiny little traction contact patch.
Right. They are absolute masters of getting off the line without flipping the bike over. MotoGP engineers are wizards at torque management. They don't have aero downforce pushing them into the track at 0 miles an hour. They have to manage the power delivery mechanically and electronically to stop the wheel spin.
So Honda hopes that their two-wheel expertise can teach the F1 team how to map that initial 0 to 50 launch.
Without stalling or just instantly blowing up the rear tire.
It's an incredible crossover. Using two-wheel tech to save the four-wheel cars, it really shows how desperate the situation is regarding this low-speed torque rule. But let's bring this back to the immediate reality for Aston Martin.
The crisis at hand.
We are days away from Melbourne. Aston Martin is literally vibrating apart. They're trying to figure out how to launch the car without stalling it. What is the actual realistic prognosis here?
Takeshi has been incredibly transparent, which honestly usually means the situation is bad enough that lying won't even help.
Yeah, you can't spin this.
No. He said the absolute priority right now is purely safety. They need to stop the battery from shorting out.
So the goal for Australia isn't let's win the race. It isn't even let's get on the podium. It's literally please don't catch fire.
It is a survival run, nothing more. And he dropped a massive bombshell regarding their actual performance.
What did he say?
He admitted the car won't be, quote, competitive until Suzuka.
Who's Suzuka? That is round 3.
Yes, so they are effectively writing off Australia and Saudi Arabia completely. While Red Bull, Ferrari, Audi, they are going to be fine-tuning their setups, dialing in their aero, fighting for pole.
And Aston
Martin will be treating a live Grand Prix weekend like a glorified test session.
I mean, that is a competitive death sentence in modern F1. You cannot give your rivals a 2-race head start.
Especially in a brand new regulation era, the development curve is steepest at the very start. Every lap Red Bull runs at full power gives them data to make the car faster. Every lap Aston Martin spends in the garage trying to fix a broken battery
is data loss.
It's compound interest. The gap doesn't just stay the same. It widens every single hour they aren't running properly.
And this puts immense pressure on the drivers. Let's be real. Fernando Alonso is not a patient man.
Not at all.
He didn't sign up for a development year. He signed up for a championship fight. If he has to drive a vibrating tractor for 2 months, that garage is going to be a very hostile environment.
And Lance Stroll, well, the pressures on the whole organization. This whole saga raises a massive question about the super team concept.
Go on. What do you mean?
I mean, you can buy the ingredients, right? You can pay Adrian Newey $30 million a year.
Yep.
You can partner with Honda. You can build the fancy new wind tunnel. But if you miss the integration, if you don't have the VTT, if the corporate cultures don't mesh, if the star aero designer doesn't talk to the engine supplier, the cake doesn't rise.
In fact, it explodes in the oven.
Exactly. Physics does not care about your budget.
It really doesn't. Physics is the ultimate scrutineer, and right now, Aston Martin is failing inspection miserably.
The body language in the garage in Bahrain was telling. It wasn't focused, it was frantic.
Mechanics running around, screens up, hushed conversations. You could smell the panic through the TV screen.
Frantic is exactly the right word. They are doing basic R&D in the middle of a race season. That is the absolute worst place to be.
So here is the question I want to leave you with today. We look at these teams as monolithic giants of engineering, unbeatable. But at the end of the day, it comes down to these tiny, granular decisions.
Buying a VTT rig versus not buying one.
Exactly. Or changing the shape of an engine cover by 3 millimeters to appease an aerodynamicist. In a season where the regulations have completely hit the reset button, can a team actually survive throwing away the first month?
History says no. Teams that start slow under new regs usually spend the next 3 years just playing catch-up.
A sobering thought for the green team. Look, we have talked a lot today about harmonic resonance and battery isolation, but you really need to see this to fully understand it. We have actually obtained the technical diagrams of the battery failure.
And the comparison of the VTT rig versus the standard dyno, the diagrams really help visualize how that vibration bridges the isolation gap.
Yeah, it is worth a look just to understand the mechanical violence happening inside that chassis. We are posting those visual breakdowns on our channels right now. Don't just listen, you need to see the data. Follow DRS Zone immediately on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. We are breaking down the telemetry visuals that explain exactly why that battery failed.
And keep an eye on the start in Australia next week. Watch that 0 to 50 phase. It is going to be absolute chaos.
Without a doubt. The lights are about to go out, folks. Stay obsessed.